Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. Today, I've got David Espindola with me, and we're going to be talking about his new book about AI, which is called Soulful, You in the Future of AI. It's a fantastic book because it's not your usual AI is going to take over the world. It's actually a very human book and a discussion around how AI will change us as humans and what we need to think about. So that's my very quick summary, because I've actually read it and I've really enjoyed it. David, where can people find you?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much, Tim, for having me on your podcast. People can find me on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active there. I also have my own website, davidespindola.com, where you can find information about myself and my work.
And you are very active on LinkedIn, aren't you? So people are, and you must be, are you the only David Espindola on LinkedIn?
Well, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I think I'm probably the most active one. I think it would be easy to find me. Yeah,
it should be. It should be. So, as I said, I really enjoyed the book. I've read a lot of books about AI, and a lot of them are the usual. AI is going to take over the world, and this is what it's going to do. But you actually approached it from a different point of view, which is to think about AI from a human perspective, which is why you've called it Soulful. Tell us what the inspiration was behind the book.
Yeah, so it actually goes back to my first book, which I wrote about 4 years ago, The Exponential Era. And in that book, I captured 8 platforms that were growing exponentially and that were bringing just unprecedented changes to business, to society. And one of those platforms that really caught my attention was AI. And I thought AI was going to, really exponentially grow very quickly within
And you
that
were
time
right.
frame. Yeah, so I guess my timing was not too bad. And so I wrote the book before ChatGPT came out. And when the book was published, which was in May of 2023, that was just 6 months after ChatGPT. So the timing was very good. And I thought that this was going to be such an impactful technology that it deserved a book of its own to begin with. But I wanted to write a different book. It was, the first book was very much business focused. I wanted this to be more about our humanity, about society, about the changes that we're going to experience, and how do we deal with these changes, and what does it do to us as human beings in terms of understanding who we are, what's important to us, what are some of the things that we need to establish as purpose for ourselves individually and as a society at large.
So you talk about human identity. How do you see AI impacting on what it means to be a human? Because you talk about you're a Christian, and you're very open about that in the book. And there's this common strand that goes through the book about spirituality and the importance of your faith. You talk in the book about the Christian work ethic, which is something that my parents taught me, and that's something that is embedded in my DNA. And you talk about that changing. So how do you see our human identity changing because of AI?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's it's a deep question that I think it requires some reflection. But the question that I was trying to address was, for our entire human history, we have been the most intelligent species on the planet, right? Which gave us the ability to collaborate, to basically have domain over the entire world and all of its resources. So now comes an entity which potentially could be just as smart, if not smarter than we are as human beings. So what does that do to us, and how does it change us as a species that has dominated the world so far? Is that going to change? And if it does, what does it mean to us? So, my reflection on that was that I personally believe that we are not just the electric pulses and chemical reactions that happen in our brain. So, if we were just that, right, then I would say that, we're now going to have this other entity that also has just basically electric pulses going through it, and it's more intelligent than us, and therefore it's more valuable than we are, and so our role as humans diminishes considerably. But I don't believe that's reality. I think we're more than that, and so I believe that we will continue to be in charge. We're going to continue to have domain over all of resources, and AI is going to be a collaborator, and we need to be very good at learning how to collaborate with this other intelligent agent that's going to be side by side with us. But we still have, governance and domain over this entity. I don't think AI is going to take over the world. Is my point of view.
Yeah, because I mean, it brings in discussion, doesn't it, about universal payments instead of work.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. I want to work, because
Yeah.
I was taught from I don't know, no one actually sat down, but hard work pays, and you get a sense of satisfaction from that.
Absolutely.
And so you also talk about the interaction between human and machine, and humans becoming mechanized, and the machines coming humanized. How do you see that taking place?
Yeah. So I'd like to just step back a little bit because you mentioned something that I think is really important, which
Sorry,
is,
am I asking you too detailed questions? You see, I've read the book.
yeah, no, your questions are excellent. So, this idea that we will need universal basic income because, AI is going to do all the work, and that will lead to unemployment, and we won't have, a source of income to live. And, it's debatable whether that's going to happen or not. But if it does happen, let's just presume that AI is going to do all of the work that we don't want to do, and that it's going to create abundance. So there'll be plenty of resources available to all of us. Then we get into this conversation about how do we distribute that wealth in a way that's fair to everybody so that everybody can benefit. But assuming all of that goes right, there's still a fundamental question that we need to answer, which is, what do we do with our time, right? I think we were made to work. I think we enjoy working. I think creativity is something that we enjoy doing. And so how does it change that work ethic? How does it change how we think about work? And what kind of work are we going to do? And what's going to be our purpose in life? So those are really deep, difficult questions that we all need to reflect on. And I think we'll find, different opinions on that. But I think it's a very important question that we all need to talk about. And then your second question, or your second comment about, robots becoming more humanized and humans becoming more like robots, I think it's an interesting perspective, because we are seeing AI becoming more and more human, right? I mean, just look at what's happening to voice in AI. AI is now able to have a social conversation, right? And it knows the intonation that it needs to use. It knows when to pause. It knows when to interject. So AI is becoming really good at conversation, and it's going to get better and better and better. So it's going to look more and more like AI is human. On the other hand, we are becoming more roboticized in the sense that, we are just busy with our phones, scrolling through data, and not spending the time that we used to spend as humans. Whether it's children playing outside or us just enjoying the outdoors. So that's an interesting perspective, and I think it's something that we need to reflect on as well, and not let that take us to a place that is going to take away our joy and the things that make us happy.
So, do you see any ethical impact? And if so, is there anything missing in terms of frameworks or anything that we should be doing? Because AI is moving fast.
Super fast.
And faster than anything I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we should be doing from an ethical perspective?
Oh, there's so much that we need to do. And, to your point, the technology is moving much faster than our ability to put in place the right frameworks, the right regulations, the right governance processes, right? So that's a huge concern. So from an ethical standpoint, I think there are lots of different themes. I just did a workshop yesterday when we talked about this. So there are things like bias and discrimination that we need to worry about. There are things like privacy and surveillance, the ability of AI to really um, be able to do surveillance, and what does that do to our privacy? AI with EEG, electroencephalography, can actually read your thoughts, which is really, really scary. And it leads to this conversation about cognitive liberty, right? And to what extent do employers have the right to know what you're thinking? And then you go into the issue of accountability. Who is accountable when AI makes a decision that has a negative impact, right? And the role of humans in making some of these decisions. What are some of the processes and some of the decisions where we must insert the human in the loop to make a decision before AI acts on it? So there are many, many different discussions, many different ways to think about ethics. And I think we will see more and more regulation to provide, guardrails on AI development and deployment. We're still in the early days. The European Union is taking the lead on that, and I think a lot of other jurisdictions are just following the lead from the EU at this point.
And how do you see spirituality playing with AI?
So, one interesting scenario that I talk about in the book is the scenario where we are free to spend more time thinking about the deeper questions, right? So if we believe that AI is going to do most of the work and we're going to have more time to ourselves, you can think of it two ways. One way is, free time is a bad thing because people tend to do bad things when they have free time.
The devil makes plans for idle hands to do.
That's right. That's right. So that's one perspective. Another perspective might be, well, maybe we won't be so busy that we will have more time to spend with our loved ones. Maybe we'll have more time to dedicate to cultural aspects of things, more artistic pursuits, and more spiritual pursuits. Maybe we'll be more connected to ourselves and understand more what it means to be human, because again, we need to find purpose, right? And I think in that search for purpose, I think spirituality could play a very significant role in just grounding us in understanding what it means to be human and why are we here. It goes back to that fundamental philosophical questions, why are we here? Who are we?
Yeah, I see that. And so that leads us on to, do you see AI developing a soul?
Great question. I don't believe so, because I think the way I like to think of the soul is something that is beyond our understanding. It's something that's beyond, the electric pulses and chemical reactions that happen in the brain. And, there's this whole interesting conversation about consciousness, right? What does it mean to be conscious? And is AI going to be conscious? So we don't have a really good understanding of consciousness. I personally believe that it does tie in with this idea of us being spiritual beings. And I don't believe AI is ever going to have what we have. And so I think being soulful is something that is unique to humans. And I think it's a strength that we can bring to the table in, understanding how to deal with people, loving people, having empathy, building trust. All of those characteristics are going to be unique positive things that we can bring to this AI human collaborative effort.
Because yes, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, about, you know, AI is mathematical, and how do you create, you know, AI has never been punched in the face. AI has never fallen in love. AI has never had its heart broken. How do you actually take those things and form some sort of mathematical algorithm for those emotions? You know,
Yeah.
when we look at our partner and the fact that our heart lifts because whenever we see them, it's like, yeah, really, is you know, write me a you know, it just isn't. Well, what I've learned with AI is if I say it isn't going to happen, it happens tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you know, the likelihood.
Yeah. So here's where I see the danger, Tim. You know, I think obviously AI doesn't feel anything. AI doesn't know what love is, but AI is very, very good at mimicking human emotions. It's very, very good at detecting our emotions. And in fact, there was a recent research that showed that AI can show more empathy in responses to questions than human beings can. So you could make the argument that AI is going to be more emotionally intelligent than humans, right? It may appear that way, but it's just mimicking what we do naturally. So, you know, the danger is that we will naturally anthropomorphize AI and think of AI potentially as a confidant, as a friend, as a lover. And if we do that in detriment of our relationship with our humans, I think that would be a very negative thing for society and for our development as humans.
In chapter 7, you talk about a way forward, and you set out a vision, and you talk about education and stuff like that. In the last 3 minutes, do you want to sort of like talk about that and how you see that going forward?
Yeah, so I think we really need to rethink education, right? Because education hasn't changed much in the last 100 years. You know, what we have as a model for education today came out of the Industrial Revolution. It had its role in helping us get to where we are today, but now we're going through this drastic change in the way work gets done and the way that we think about cognition. You know, so we have gone through an education system where at a very high level, basically the model was, you know, you go to class, there's a teacher, the teacher is going to send you
You learn
content.
some facts.
Yeah, you're going to absorb that content, you're going to memorize some things, and then you're going to go through some standardized testing to make sure that you understood what was taught to you, right? So that was the basic model. But now you have at our fingertips technology that can give you an answer to any question that you have. And so, does it still make sense for us to continue with that model? Or do we need to prepare people to ask better questions? Because if you don't know what questions to ask, then AI is not going to be very helpful to you. So, we need to change that educational mindset to provide, you know, the basic principles. People need to understand the fundamentals so they can ask the right questions of AI. But I think AI is going to have a huge impact in the way that we think about education.
I think we're already seeing research, aren't we, that entry-level jobs are falling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, you know, traditionally what happened was that people went to college, they would then get some sort of entry-level job, which would be an internship or something like that. And you would use those people as the people that, you know, can you do this for me? And it needs some thought and there's an output. And now we turn to AI to do that.
Right. And that was a way for us to prepare, you know, these entry level workers to do higher level work, right? So if we take that away, what process are we going to introduce to get people the experience that they need in order to be able to do this other higher level work? I think that's a big question that we as a society need to think about as well.
Yeah, one of my team does. I've actually got several people that lecture, but this one said that he does MBA training, and the process is you do a piece of theory, you then set a task. They have 30 minutes for the task, and then they talk about it at the end. He said you put the task up on the PowerPoint, they take a photo of it, They basically take the text, they put it into their AI of choice. It spits out the answer. They don't even read what the answer is, and they talk for the rest of the 25 minutes of the 30 minutes they've got for the. And they're not even thinking about what they, it's just doing it.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get these very, very bright, clever people coming out of the of university, not necessarily knowing what they've been taught.
Yeah. That's a concern. So I think these are all fundamental questions that we need to think through and rethink education. The other aspect of education that I think is really important is this idea of lifelong learning, right? Because we come from this preconception of, oh, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get a college degree, and then I'm done. Well, that doesn't work anymore. You're going to be studying for the rest of your life.
Yeah. David, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your book, Soulful, You in the Future of AI. Excellent book, really loved it. If I wanted to get a copy, where could I buy one?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Tim. I appreciate you having me here. Glad you liked the book. So the book can be purchased at probably the best places on Amazon, and you can get the hard copy. There's also an audiobook version that came out about a month ago. So those are available on Amazon.com.
And you've already got a load of, was it 38 reviews on Amazon? So it's clearly a popular book.
Yeah, I got a good number of reviews, and the reviews were very, very good. So I was very pleased with the reviews. And also the book has won an award, and it was a finalist on several other awards. So I think the response has been very positive, and I'm very pleased with that.
Excellent. And where can we find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. You can find me on my website, davidespindola.com. Those are probably the best channels.
Excellent. David, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for writing the book, and thank you for coming on and talking about it. I mean, I have the best job in the world. I get to read amazing books and then ask loads of questions to the authors. I mean, come on, isn't that the best job in the world?
That's a great way to embrace this idea of lifelong learning, right?
It is, David. I can assure you it is. Yes. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.